Welcome to Ripstop on the Record, the podcast for makers, by makers, where we talk about all things MYOG. Brought to you by Ripstop by the Roll. I think it's good, right?
Yeah, I think that was a good take.
Hey everyone, welcome to Ripstop on the Record. I'm Jameson.
And I'm Avery.
In this episode, we are talking with Marc Schatalow. He is a freelance soft goods designer and purveyor of inspiration. That's just a title I gave him because of the feeling I left with the episode, by the way. It's not like an official business card title or anything. He has done a lot of cool things, but he's most known for rebuilding and seam ripping a Mystery Ranch and Carryology backpack. So he took this really unique kind of one-of-a-kind bag, pulled it apart, dyed it, and then remade it to make it cooler. And it's really awesome. Marc is just a really cool guy. He's really nice. He's genuine. He's a fantastic maker. And this is an episode that Carter and I did together with him. And we just both left the episode and we're kind of like, that was really fun. That was like one of the most fun episodes we've had in a while. So we would like this episode and we think you will too.
And in case you missed it, go check out our new colored components. We have popular components from Duraflex, Woojin, and YKK. These components are color matched to our top selling fabrics for cohesive designs. These include products like cord locks, buckles, adjusters, zipper sliders, and more.
Yeah, please go check them out. They're really awesome. Don't check them out for my sake. Check them out for your sake because they're really cool. I'm going to plug one other thing, not on sale and not a new product whatsoever, but I've been working with Ventec a lot because we've been preparing for Trail Days, which just happened when you're listening to this. It's happening this past weekend. And if you were at Trail Days and you noticed these two big kind of backdrop banners that we had, one was this amazing photo of Avery that we took on a photo shoot earlier this year. But I'm always so struck at how great of a fabric Ventec is because it's only printable. I don't use it that much until I work with it. And the print quality is amazing. It has a great hand feel. It's a waterproof breathable. So if you're in the market for any of those things, then go check out Ventec and make sure you print on it because it prints really, really nicely.
Awesome. Let's get into the episode.
Hey, what's up, Marc? Thanks so much for joining us on the episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. This is sick.
Awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. So I want to start with kind of the beginning, I guess. We'll talk a lot about your sewing, which is kind of why you're here. So I want to talk about first how you learned to sew.
Okay. I was living in the Bay Area and I was working in lighting at the time. So I used to work in film like full time. And I was on this TV show called America's Greatest Makers. Wasn't like on it. I was working on it. And it took place at this, there used to be this like tech maker space in like Financial District in SF. So they had a whole bunch of different machine shops and that's where they hosted the show. So I think it was a Netflix show and we were filming there for like 2 weeks. But the cool part was that like everyone on the crew had to have like access badges just to get into the building. And those badges also gave you access to take any other classes. So I was like, nice. Dude, yeah, while I'm here, like I'm stocking up, I'm going in. So I know I signed up, like sewing was one, I did a welding class, and then I did a soldering class. And all of them were dope. Like all of them are, you know, it's just fun making stuff, as I'm sure you guys know. Like that's why we're talking about this. But I guess when it came down to it, I was like, if I want to weld, I have to store a bunch of metal like in my apartment in Alameda. Like this, you know, my neighbors are going to hate me. And the sewing thing just seemed a little bit more practical. I was like, okay, I can like have a stash of fabric and this is containable, you know? So I think it was like a week later, I went to Joann's and got like a baby lock sewing machine. Yep. And I made some of the worst stuff ever, but it was it was fun, you know. It was like just trying to make gifts for people and just the thrill of like learning something new and just being absolutely ass at it, but like it's so humbling. But yeah, they just kind of kept going with it.
So how long ago was that?
That was, I think that was the last show I worked on before moving to LA. So that would have been like 8 or 9 years ago that the
Okay.
the sewing journey started.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
you've been doing it for a while then.
Yeah, I've been doing it for a bit. You know, just stubborn as hell, sticking
Well,
with
it makes
it.
me feel better because I have obviously seen like some of like you I'll call it your portfolio of things that you've made, and I'm like, damn, that is really good. I hope this has been
Thank you.
going on for a while. Otherwise, I'm embarrassed of the things that I've made.
Yeah, I think I should just start posting the early stuff because that that I think would make a lot of people a bit more eased, myself included, because they were bad, man. I remember like I was determined to try to make like a pair of slippers. I was like, I'm not gonna buy a pair. I have a sewing machine now. I'm gonna make slippers, and I spent like a day making slippers off this pattern online. And by the time I had like flipped them, they fit literally around like my big toe. Like I literally screwed it up so bad, and I was I was pissed. I immediately like drove to Ross. I was like, screw this, I'm buying slippers. Like
That sounds like Jameson to me a little bit. He very much likes to make same exact philosophy. It's like, no, why would I buy this if I can make this? This will be a fun process. And I'm kind of the opposite at this point, where I'm like, how long can I spend on Reddit researching the best slippers, and then I'm gonna order some from like Norway or something?
Yeah, we've created buyer personas. We're gonna get like businessy here to talk about both of those those personalities. Like one person, like they're gonna make to make the best thing, and somebody's gonna make pretty much just to make anything, whatever it is. They're gonna try to build it. Um,
yeah.
One thing that's kind of interesting about your story is that a lot of people, like a story that we see a lot, is I learned to sew in home ec class. My grandmother taught me to sew. So I learned when I was like 7, forgot about it for 20 years, and then came back to it like during COVID or because of some sort of need. And I think it's kind of interesting that you started like later in life, like later than at least middle school or something,
hmm
um, started so much later. Did you have like, were you always like a handy kid? Because it seems like you like to make stuff and you want to build stuff, but you hadn't really tried the sewing machine yet. What other things, kind of hands-on projects, had you tried before?
uh bit of like, I mean, bit like very small into like woodworking, where it's
Sure.
just I had a skill saw and I was like, okay, now I can
Okay.
cut stuff. So it there was I feel like it was a weird trend. It would have been my toxic trait at the time of like moving into an apartment and being like, oh, there's like a big wall. I can do a table that like spans the wall, and then I can like work on all my projects there. So every apartment from Alameda to the first few in LA had the giant, obnoxious wood table for projects. Um, but yeah, before that, it was skate videos. So filming skateboarding,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
yeah, that whole process was probably the creative outlet.
I always thought I was gonna make skate videos. When I was in like middle school, I was like, dude, that is so cool. I like bought some skate shoes, and all my friends were skating. I was like, I can do this too. After basketball practice, I'm gonna start skating. And like, I started out by like just literally taking the trucks and everything off the board and just having a board in the driveway, like trying to do tricks so I wouldn't
Oh yeah.
fall.
Yeah.
And then I
Hell
was like,
yeah.
all right, I can put the trucks on now. So I put them on, immediately just busted ass, and I never did it again. But there was something about like skate videos in general that were very appealing to me. I mean, they were really popular for
Sure.
a certain amount of time. Like
Mhm.
that was a huge thing. But yeah, I definitely thought I was going to be doing that, and I was going to be like Rodney Mullen or whatever, and I wasn't.
Rodney Mo, that's a name I haven't thought about in a while.
Yeah, not for me.
So what do you do now? You like to sew? What's your, you said previously did lighting. What
Mhm.
about your day job now?
So it's basically split. So like I'll still work in film, but I don't work with like the shooting crew anymore. I work off production because the hours are a bit more regular. Like I know that I'll go in at 6 and I'll be out at 4:30. Um, but there like has been no film work between the writer's strike, the actor strike, And then now we're kind of rolling into like this weird lull of a bunch of our unions contracts are up for negotiation.
Okay.
So it's been pretty dead. So besides that, I do work freelance doing soft goods design and prototyping. So there's a few different companies that like I'll have a short contract with a couple times a year, and that'll just be going in doing samples for them, whether it's something new or a lot of times it'll be like, development came back to us and we have a few different new materials that we just want to see, so maybe we just take a pre-existing bag that's worked and then we just see a refresh in it with this material, and then they could bring it and focus group it to their groups. Kids can get their hands on it and be like, yeah, like I like this, or this sucks, and then they can have that feedback immediately.
That's fascinating. Yes. So being a freelance soft goods designer in a way, you're kind of you're on an island a little bit, at least in terms of some of the other soft goods designers we've talked to. They've been a part of a larger organization. Whatever you're able to talk about, what does that look like for you on a small scale? Is someone giving you? Is it similar to like what somebody would do at like a soft good agency or design agency, just on a smaller scale, or are your projects looking different? What does that look like?
I mean, I don't know if I have a whole lot of insight of how it would look in a different
Yeah,
lens.
yeah.
Um, but I guess I can elaborate a bit more of what it is for me. But it's it's freelance. It is you're available or try to become available when they call you. You try to slot it in, and just trying to be flexible. Sometimes I'll get brought in for 2 weeks with a brand, and then that's it. And sometimes it goes a little bit longer. So just trying to go with the flow and try to make as many projects work, even when they start overlapping and piling up and stuff.
Do you ever have any projects that someone might call you for, and then you realize, oh, I don't know if I can handle this? That'd be something.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you said that, I had like this innate fear where I was like, oh, what if like I don't know, Lululemon called me and they were like, we want you to refresh this bag, and then you start doing it, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, do you ever
Yeah,
have any tough ones like that?
I absolutely. And I think the biggest skill that like I've been really working on is just knowing like my capabilities, my limits, especially for like the machines that I have. It's like as soon as you get into like the industrial side, it's like every step of the bag almost has a machine that is built for that step. So you kind of have to become like a true judge of like the work you can do and be very transparent about that with the client. Like when they come to you and they're showing you a CAD that's like this bag of all welded seams, like, yeah, I'm not the person for that, but I just try to be as honest as I can about the stuff that I will be able to achieve. And then if there's areas that I see I would struggle with, be upfront with that. And then sometimes they still want to go for it, because sometimes those details they know the factory can work out. They just want to maybe work on a shape and be able to like have a tangible thing that they can show to like a meeting with like marketing. So they're not just like looking at a screen trying to imagine like, okay, yeah, I think we're all on board, until they can like have it in their hands and be like, well, right away, I realized this might just be too big, so at least we've already worked through that issue before this even makes it to the factory and we're going for samples.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's definitely. I can certainly understand. Like from we do some soft goods design, but it's all based around like creating pretty much pre-cut, like laser cut kits for people that are beginners.
Mm-hmm.
So oftentimes, when we're having development meetings, it's someone coming to me with an idea, and it's a really good idea. It's like a super cool thing, but I have to explain that same limitation of like, hey, it would be really cool if we could make this backpack kit, but you have to understand that someone at home has a baby lock sewing machine, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
They can't like bind this seam the way that you want them to be able to. So it's interesting how that kind of overlaps. And sometimes we get far in the process and then realize, like for instance, we've been doing a lot more with apparel fabrics recently.
Mm-hmm.
So we came out with some basic kits, like a fleece beanie kit and some other stuff like that. And we got to the point to like film the how-to video to show people. and realized, well, we've been prototyping all this stuff on a serger because that's what you need to do this.
Yeah.
But now we're creating this barrier to entry for a beginner that doesn't have that. So you have to like, what's a recommendation? Like buy a $300 serger to make this $10 kit that we tried to make affordable for you. So definitely something we're still learning as well. But yeah, just thought that was really cool.
What do your machines look like? Like in your sew shop, like what kind of machines do you have and do you work with?
So let's see. So behind me, I got a Brother bar tacker. I actually wrote the model number down in case you guys ask this question because I always forget this one. But it is the Brother KE430HS-05. So
They make it easy, don't they?
yeah, it's like all the Juki models, like, or at least like a little shorter. But this thing ridiculous. But this is like probably the most recent machine I had picked up. I got this a couple of years ago where I had a client come with like wanting to do like a collection of bags for like mountain biking. And I was looking at the spec sheet and it's just like everything had bar tacks like everywhere. And I was just like, okay, I guess it's time. And definitely huge investment. But ever since I've spent the money, I have forgotten about the money because it's just been that useful to have. And then I might be able to do a little rotation here. Maybe we can catch it. Back in the corner is the cylinder arm, Juki 1341 that I have set up for binding. And then maybe we could do another little rotation. We're in a big room here. If you couldn't tell, it's super small. Over there is the 1541, just your standard walking foot. So those are the three that I've kind of worked into my workflow that are like that feel like essential. But you know, there's always room for another machine, or at least a want for one. There might not be the physical room for it, but there's a lot of projects where I'm like, man, I wish I had something that could do like lighter material a lot easier. You know, if I'm doing lining and doing lining pockets for a bag, like sometimes the 1541 is just going to eat it up because it's just this massive needle going through there and just destroying the hell out of it, you know? So there's it's a slippery slope for sure. It becomes a rabbit hole, and it's just a matter of like what you want to put into it and what you think is going to be necessary to do the projects you want to do.
You know how bikes and like bike culture has like the N+1 theory?
Yes.
Like
I don't know that.
bikes.
What is that?
Okay, so basically the concept is like the number of bikes that you need is the number of bikes that you have plus one. So you always need one more. And it's maybe a little bit different with sewing machines, but it's also not that different with sewing machines because there's so many just like technical machines that you can have. I mean, it's always like, well, I wanted a serger, I want an industrial serger, I want the long arm, I want like just always another one.
I can imagine that if I had a different career and I was doing something more similar to soft goods design, that it would be bad.
Yeah, especially you.
It would be well, because here I think I'm normally the one that says like we don't need that, which is kind of counter to my personality. Because a lot of times, you know, Kyle might say, "Dude, we should get a bar tacker," and I'm like, "That would be sick." However, like I said, we're not really making finished goods. We're designing kits for people to like advance their skills. So if you have a kit that's based around an industrial bar tacking machine,
we're separating ourselves from the user.
what are you gonna tell them to like hand sew that part or something? Like a
Yeah.
78-hour project or something. But yes,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I can't think about that too much, or I'll just start buying stuff to put in my sewing room.
So I do have to ask because I've personally never used a bar tacker. We have, well, currently one industrial machine in there, but technically two. One's being serviced, I guess you could say. What's using a bar tacker like? How great is it? And like how? Because I would imagine before you're just doing like, you know, what every home DIYer does, just, you know, you'll go back and forth like 3 times over your space. How much of a difference has that made for you in your making?
It's made things a lot faster for sure.
Yeah.
To be honest, the machine scares the hell out of me because it's also like if it goes down, like if something gets jammed, it is not like a machine that I feel like I can troubleshoot. Like for the most part, these other ones, I'm like, okay, I can like take the casing apart if thread gets jammed up in there, or like, okay, if the timing goes out of sync, I know how to sync it. But if something happens with that thing, like all bets are off. I'm screwed. I have to call some tech to come out here. And a lot of times the techs get upset that you can't bring them the machine. But I'm like, dude, I live upstairs. I'm not going to schlep this thing down 14 steps, try to load it into my Honda Fit and then bring it over to you. Like, it's just like, you got to come here, you know? So it's going to become expensive and it's a whole thing. So for right now, I mean, knock on wherever there's wood, it's been fine. But every time I do a tack, I'm still just as nervous. Like double checking to make sure the thread's in the right spot. I'm like making sure that whatever I'm going to tack through isn't like too much to where this thing's just going to go haywire. And I turn like the default speed down by like a quarter. Like it usually, I forget how they measure it, but like the default would be like, let's say 2000. And when you run that, it's just like a machine gun blast, and I put it at
I
like
think it's stitches per minute.
okay. I put it at 500, and that feels a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, those things, have you ever seen one like work, James? So
I've seen
basically
them on
there's
like videos. Yeah.
you can like basically set every parameter of the stitch, like
Mhm.
based on if you have like 1 inch webbing or whatever, and then like a clamp
Mhm.
comes down, locks it into place, and then the needle, it just goes hard.
Yeah.
It goes hard, yeah.
And then it stops. It's pretty much. It sounds like some ad lib from a rap song from 2011.
Yeah, brah, brah. Yeah.
Yes, exactly what it sounds like.
That'd be fascinating. I can see. I mean, especially with all the parameters, like the number of things that you can switch on like a standard machine, I guess is probably just so much less than like the width and like how many like zigzags you're going to put and how many like diagonal stitches you're going to put. Like all of that stuff is changeable in Bartek. So it's just a lot of stuff to compute, I guess. Is that like what makes them so hard?
I think it's more of just there are so many parts and it moves so quickly
Yes.
that whenever you have something go wrong, it's just there are many more variables in how you can like look at something. Like if you just have a standard straight stitch machine, industrial is probably easier than home machines because those are not really designed to be serviced.
Mm-hmm.
They basically just want you to buy a new one if something breaks.
Yeah.
Like industrial machine, you just look at it. Okay, it goes up and down, and the thread is loose. Okay, well I probably need to tighten the tension.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
On a bar tacker machine, it stops midway through, and you don't really know what happened.
Yeah, there's no feedback, I guess. Like if you see like nesting in the bottom, you're like, oh, some like tension's wrong, or like, is that what you're saying? Like, there's just no feedback. With the
There's just a lot more variable, and I haven't like worked directly on one, but
sure.
For instance, Matt from Red Pop Hacks that we've had on here, friend of the show, as they say, he got one. He got one, and he basically said the exact same thing that Mark was saying. Is like, it's really cool, and then it stopped working, and then it took me 6 weeks to get it to work again, and then it was really cool again.
Yeah.
Or something as simple as switching, like if you have 5 layers of a certain fabric, and then you need to put a bar tack in just a liner, or something like that, a liner in another piece, you're changing those variables as well.
Sure.
Yeah, where I've really screwed it up is if I'm like threading in a new color and you tie the knot, you pull it through to do your quick little thread change, but then you don't realize that maybe the thread didn't fully get in a tension disc, and the tension is like so sensitive on these things. So like if you do miss a disc and if it's not seated all the way, then the tension will just go haywire on your tack. And then that's where like it'll really jam up on you, and you're just like panic mode at that point. You're just like it might not even complete it. The needle might get stuck in it, and then you're like fighting the clamp to get it out. Like that. I have made so many mistakes, so I'm glad that it's still working and that it seems happy.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far down this bar tack, but now I'm just thinking of that, like being midway through a project and going to put a bar tack in like a main panel and having it just freak out and be like, I got to rebuild this whole panel. That sounds.
Oh no, that's whenever you seam rip all that, cut it out, and then you rub your finger over it until the whole
just make it go away.
is visible.
All right, let's anyway. So one thing I've noticed about your Instagram profile is that you have a really cool sort of style and signature to what you make. And one thing I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is how other tips or recommendations or just kind of start the conversation around how you've sort of made a signature Marc style to what you do and to the goods that you work with.
Thank you. I didn't I didn't know I really had a style, but I appreciate that. I guess it kind of comes from just um, doing what I think is going to be fun or funny. Usually, if a project makes me laugh a little bit, I'm going to be more. I hope you guys can't hear this chihuahua that's just like yapping like crazy, but it's this like little shrimp dog that's next door that sometimes gets a little aggro. But
as
sowing
they,
microaggressions.
yeah,
Chihuahuas are known to hate textiles.
Yeah, this one hates me. It just watches me through the window here. But yeah, I guess I just try to have fun, do stuff that I think is going to be at least interesting and keeps me interested in it enough to keep doing it. And then with like the content side of it, I don't know, put it to music that I think is funny, do do stuff that I think shows a process well. I mean, I like watching a lot of different makers, and I my other toxic trait is watching the Prime Maker channel before going to bed. And since I've moved in with my partner Rochelle, she's not totally on board with that one. That was one of the routines that kind of had to get changed into something else. But I watch a lot of the maker content. So if it's stuff that I like to watch, it's stuff that I also want to try to make because I would just want to see more of that.
yeah. You bring up a good point there about making those. I do wonder if a lot of people sort of make stuff and just sort of like settle for whatever feels approachable. And I think that's kind of a cool like temperature gauge for like what you're making. Like, oh, is this making me smile? Like, is this getting me stoked in a way, or is it just sort
Yeah.
of like, am I making it? Because I don't know how I would like give an overview of your style, how I would speak to it, but like when I'm scrolling through, I'm like, this stuff is like, it's cool, it's fun, it's interesting. There's some design concept where I'm like, oh, this stands out in some way. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a cool way for other makers to be like, okay, well, how could I make this something that does feel inspiring or exciting, like make me smile a little bit, like the colors that you use,
Mm-hmm.
the way that the way you pattern things, the shapes that you use, like they all lead to intentionality, I guess, at least is what it is, that you don't always see.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I notice about your style, I think your headphones actually represent what you're talking about really well, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like you have this kind of like wild, outlandish color, like patterns, and then you also have this like almost like EDC technical, just like
Mm-hmm.
style at the same time, and you're blending those together. So you have like this like multicam black tote bag thing, but then also there's like a pink accent on the side or something that kind of
Mm-hmm.
more fully represents your style, and I think that's really cool because it's also kind of my style more so. Like Jameson, I think has a more subdued style. Now he does add some color here and there.
Okay,
But
we're
I
getting
much
there.
more gravitate towards like the Mystery Ranch pack that you took and basically recreated. But like to have colors that are exciting is exactly like something that I would do. And I would also choose those colors. And so I thought that was really cool. I also liked how you
Thank you.
like dyed the fabric yourself and the webbing.
Oh yeah,
That's a pain in the ass, so I know that.
dude, it was a huge pain in the ass.
But it's cool that like I think it shows to part of your personality as well as a lot of other makers is that it's not just sewing, right? It's like you didn't have to dye that stuff, but it's another layer of like inserting creativity into the project, right? Like you can already choose your own thread color, you can already choose whatever pattern you want, but you're adding another step where you're like, well, I'm basically going to make colors that don't even exist, and like kind of make them all fit together. So I thought that was really awesome.
No, thank
And
you.
next time, if you want stuff that's like colors, hit us up. We'll help you out because we can just print it for you.
Dude, I was seriously considering it because I was looking at your guys' site and I was like trying to figure out, and I think what I got wrapped up in my head was trying to decide on those colors early on. I'm like, okay, I would have to like pick a Pantone and like stick with it.
Yeah.
And when it came to the dyeing, I was at least able to kind of play with it a little bit more to where I could make a decision very last minute. And so it worked out in that way.
For sure. It's also probably less expensive. Just I mean, the printing process for us, like, there is a reason why that stuff is so much more expensive. It's because it requires all kinds of machinery and
Mm-hmm.
the
Multiple
we
personnel.
have to accept loss in product if something goes wrong. Because like
Oh yeah.
dye sublimation on technical fabrics like X-Pack and stuff, just I mean, if you're going through a run of that in a custom pattern and something happens in the fabric twist, I mean, you have the potential to lose thousands of dollars very quickly.
Oh my God.
I mean, if we print like in bulk as well and then sell that for a little bit of a lower price. Like you might run 50 yards of a red color that doesn't exist in X-Pack, and then you can buy that by the yard. But imagine if you accidentally select the wrong color whenever you're printing the paper, because it goes, ink to paper, paper to fabric.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick the wrong color and now it comes out pink, you've just printed 50 yards of X-Pack, which is like $30 a yard or whatever.
Yeah. Has that happened?
I think that's, oh yeah. There are so many colors. So like most people don't know this. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but
Ooh.
I've tapered down on them now that we sold out of it. But for years, we were trying to match like our stock colors to new X-Pack colors for our ready to ship line. And I was trying to do charcoal gray. So I kept selecting what I thought and we have like a color map that has a lot of the colors on there, so you can kind of like pick the Pantone that you want, but it's a small swatch, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time that's okay. But if you're trying to do an exact match, and like X-Pack in general is just a little bit different in how it takes color. So I was like, all right, this looks like charcoal gray. Let's do 50 yards of this. And I think I printed an 8x8. I'm not that dumb. I tried to do a little bit bigger. I was like, all right, this looks like charcoal gray. Let's do it. And it came out, and it was not that at all. It was like half blue. So that became carbon, which was one of our top sellers. It was supposed to be charcoal gray, but I was like, okay, well, now we have charcoal gray and carbon.
And
then
happy
the next
accident.
time,
Yeah.
I think I didn't write it down or something. Oh no, I was still just trying to make charcoal gray. So now we have carbon, but no charcoal gray. So then I was like, okay, well, that was obviously wrong. So let's go to this Pantone or RGB code. I can't remember. I think we were in Pantone color standard at that point. So I picked that one. It was horribly wrong as well. So that became Rhino. So we have carbon and Rhino. And to this day, we still don't have charcoal gray X-Pack because I got pissed off. And I was like, well, you have two to choose from.
Well,
so yes, it's happened. Sorry, that opened up a wound for me.
No, I actually didn't realize that. And I made with Rhino last week. I made a couple of
cool
things
colors.
out of Rhino. They are. I would actually say that your failure to acquire charcoal gray is definitely people's gain because they're cooler shades, I would say, than just charcoal gray.
Yeah. Another thing, which I'm sorry to anyone who was a part of this, but I'm really not sorry, is whenever Rhino happened, I was like, okay, well, we could turn this into something for engagement, right? So what Kyle and I did is we started like an Instagram poll thing. And we were like, hey, this is a new color that we're coming out with for X-Pack. At that time, no one was printing on X-Pack at all. It was only us. And we really didn't even know how to do it that well. So we were like, this will help people get excited. So we did a naming contest. And it was like, here's the color. Here's some pictures of it. Like, it will, like this post and comment the name that you want the color to be. And if you win, you'll win a few yards of fabric. And your name will forever be cemented with this new color. So we probably got 30 responses maybe. And they were so bad. People, I don't know what happened. Like, I know we have a ton of creative, maybe they were bad back then. They got better. I don't know. The reason why I wanted to do that wasn't just engagement. I also am not that good at picking names.
That's hard.
But yeah, the names were like dark moon rock under the sunlight. And I'm like, well, first off, that doesn't even make sense in terms of understanding how space works. But
I'd buy that color though.
Yeah, it's kind of like meta funny, but
like
they
moon
were
rock.
serious. There's these names that were just super wild. So what I did was I think we just selected a random person and sent them the yardage because I didn't want to like lie, but then I just named it Rhino. So like I just came up with that,
You had to
and then
come
we
up
were like,
with it
"Yeah,
anyway.
congratulations, Rhino is the new name." And then I just randomly picked someone for the.
They're like, I didn't suggest Rhino. I suggested belly button lint. Like what?
It's not like
Belly
I
button
think
like
that
gray.
we should have. And it's funny enough, we've now changed the way that we do like crowdsource stuff like that because like we still want people to be
Sure.
to like be able to enter a giveaway, but normally we put parameters on it now because I learned that when it's open ended, like someone who's just excited about new fabric, they're not thinking about how that fits into our brand image and stuff, and I don't expect them to.
Right.
But I didn't understand that then.
Sure.
So now we're like, hey, we're coming out with a new fabric. We want you to pick 2 new colors for us. Here are 5 selections of colors.
Yeah, choose
Pick
2.
2. And you still get that engagement, and it still gives you an idea of what people really want. But you don't, if otherwise people are going to recommend 3,000 colors, and then you didn't really get anything out of that, and neither did they.
3,000 different colors.
Anyways, those are my long rants
Yeah.
about Instagram.
I want to go back to your Mystery Ranch bag because
Sure.
that is at least a large part of how we kind of found out about you and started watching you. Watching you sounds weird. Tracking your channel, whatever.
Yeah,
You guys have
that's
been
when I
watching
started
me.
watching.
Yeah.
How did that project come about? Why'd you do it? Tell us about how it went, and kind of give the people that may have not seen it yet. We'll link it in the show notes.
Okay.
Tell them about what you did with that bag.
I've been following the Carryology group pretty regularly. Good people, and I just joined the Facebook page. They have like the Carryology classifieds.
Oh yeah, I'm on there.
Oh yes, yeah.
We're together now.
I love the drama. I love going on
It's
there and
kinda
seeing
wild.
what people complain about and stuff, and I'm like just eating the popcorn, watching, dude. So
They're like, I tried to fit 14 Nerf guns in this bag, it's just not quite right. They need to come out with a 26 liter. The 24 doesn't fit the Ultra Sniper series. Anyways, sorry.
It kills me. But I do genuinely enjoy it. It is a group that like I really like checking in on and being a part of. And I didn't know about the unicorn bag. I didn't know there was a unicorn, V1. And I also, thought it was pretty funny that a group of mostly men are talking about this bag called the unicorn, and that there's patches that are like the unicorn hunter and like all this stuff. Like it's hilarious to me. And I understand the lore, but like at the end of the day, from an outside perspective, like I tell Rochelle about it and she's like, oh yeah, the unicorns, you guys are gonna go slay the unicorns, and like it's like it kills me. And
Very like traditionally like traditional gender ideals men too. They're like it's
Yeah.
like it's a lot of black. Like it's just black colors and like a lot of the EDC stuff. You don't see a lot of like wild pops of color.
No. So when they released the second one, I was talking with my friend Taylor. He also sews. He has a brand called Heading, and we go on little hikes and stuff together, and we just talk the talk. And we were talking about the bag. We're talking about the unicorn, and we were just kind of like, I guess, brainstorming and just talking about what other versions could look like. And initially I had thought about like recreating it, but I kind of wanted to do like this super messed up one that was like kind of Frankenstein-y, patchworky, and just made out of like a bunch of random materials. And then I kind of started thinking about unicorns more. I started Googling some unicorns because I really hadn't thought about a unicorn that often. And you think you know what something looks like until you look at a Google image result of like hundreds of unicorns, and you're like, oh, I always thought like the horn is always gold, but on some of these it's actually rainbow. And like, wow, this unicorn looks really dope, but it's only like 4 colors, where this one's like 7 colors. And it got weird real quick. uh Until I made some mood boards, I printed them out and I posted them up. And each day I like looked over at my creepy mood board of unicorns, I just like laughed, and I was like, I have to make this. Like, this is so ridiculous. I have to try to make this happen. And usually with each project I take on, I try to make sure that there's like a couple things in that project that I have never done before, so that it's also still just exciting to want to try. and the dyeing was one of them. So I was like, okay, like I think I can make some dye stuff happen, and I think this at least calls for a palette that I can't really source these colors, so this would be a chance to like give that a go, and that's kind of how it became.
Yeah, it's awesome. I want it, but I don't want to make it.
Um, so how long did the rebuild take you? Because you had to fully seam rip, take apart, like disassemble, dye, and then reassemble the entire pack again.
Well, based on the YouTube video I watched, 10 minutes and 38 seconds or something.
Exactly. Yeah, it took about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
It took a little longer than I anticipated because I ripped it apart as soon as I got it because I was impatient. But then we traveled to Thailand for the holidays, so I was totally removed from it. And when I came back, I was just like looking at a pile of pieces, and I was like, I'm screwed. Like I don't even know where to start. So it took a long time to kind of get like reacquainted with like the steps, because I mean, as people who make stuff, it's very easy to get trapped in the world of like one panel, two panel, gusset, and it's not like that at all. So it's trying to remember the steps in which things get sewn together so that you don't mess something up. So it took about, by the time we came back, I think it took about 2 weeks, and that was working on like basically a section of it a day. I did not want to just like grind on it and rush it, because then that would kind of suck. So section a day, 2 weeks, and then it took about 2 weeks to edit everything. So all in all, a month for the project.
That aligns. That makes that makes sense. I think that would make people feel better too. It's so easy. I mean, not to sound like one of those, just like an old person, but it's so easy to see stuff on social media and like be like, oh, like he made that look really easy. And I do think it's encouraging at times when we can on the podcast to be like, no, like good makers also do hard stuff that take a while too.
Yes, and I also took like a lot of stuff that I sewed, I had to take apart and resew it, just making sure that things lined up correctly. Like it was not like every time I put a piece of material together, it just worked out. Like there was still plenty of parts where I'm like scratching my head and I have to totally take it apart because I screwed something up. So it always happens.
Yeah. So I want to talk about some other making stuff, and we have a lot of people that listen that are maybe not new, but they're looking for more inspiration and more ways to get into making. So one question I want to ask you as an experienced maker now is, what do you think are a couple of the most important skills that every DIYer should have if they're looking to get into making more than just like zipper wallets and zipper pouches, but kind of expand their gear to packs and bags and whatnot?
I mean, this is where I might get a little woo woo, a little holistic, a little bit, but I do think it's super important that like you're just kind to yourself. Like bottom line, like I think at least for me, and I'm sure maybe other people feel this too, but like the inner critic, man, can be such an asshole. As soon as you start working on something, that can be the voice in your head that is just like, this sucks. How are you messing this up? Oh my God, you messed this up again. Like, what are you doing? Like, why are you wasting your time on this? You could just go buy this, So there's all kinds of stuff that I feel like I still at least battle with daily. And if you can practice just being extra kind and just turning the volume down just a little bit, then you can really start to like enjoy the process of making something. And even just like I'm not like the biggest affirmation head, but even just like progress, not perfection, just like enjoying the process, being curious about making mistakes and being open to those mistakes and seeing them as like places that you learn and embracing them for what they are, the imperfections. Because at the end of the day, it's so easy to be on social media and just comparing yourself to everyone else who's doing something that it looks so polished and perfect, and then then you're just being so hard on yourself. So I think for the woo-woo response, that's
I mean, I think that's awesome. It's actually something that I'm glad that you said, because for me, I was about to say I won't speak for Jameson, but I literally am about to speak for Jameson. So speaking for Jameson,
talking about myself, this guy, yeah.
that's something that both of us have, that inner critic. I actually think Jameson is better at silencing that than I am. In terms of making stuff, it's a big reason why I don't make as anywhere near as much stuff as I used to. I think because I am so focused on it being perfect that like there have been hundreds of times where I was like so excited to make like a backpack. I got halfway through and I messed up like one part and I literally just stopped making it completely, and I never went back. I still haven't gone back and made it, and I just like messaged someone on Instagram that made better stuff than I thought I could make. Was like, yo, here's the patterns, can you like sew this for me? Which is, I still got the bag, but I appreciate what you're talking about, because it's something that I also need to remind myself of. I was like, no, it's okay, you could go make something and appreciate that process, and I'm sure that probably rings true for a lot of people too. And some people, maybe they just, I'm not saying you shouldn't buy things that are high quality and well designed. You should only try to make them. But I think that doesn't seem outlandish to me to be a really good tip.
No, not at all.
Yeah, or even like learning when to literally take a break and step away. Like sometimes I will get very stubborn, especially if like a step is kind of kicking my ass a little bit, and I'll be like, no, I just got to finish this and then I'll feel better. But like if in those moments, if you literally just step outside and like do a lap around your neighborhood, like just go on a walk, even if it's like for 5 minutes, or go drink a soda, like go make coffee, like just something to just break up the hyper focus on one thing. Or sometimes like I'll finish making something at some late hour of the night and I will hate it. But then after I sleep and I come back and I look at it, I don't hate it anymore. You know, it's just learning the patterns of that and knowing those patterns and being like, it's okay. Like I can get through this.
Yeah, you really got to play games with your mind a little bit and sort of say it as if like you're like you're your own mother, sort of like, no, like that
No,
does look really
absolutely.
good.
Yeah.
Sort of like, no, like you need a break, honey, it's okay. Like, yeah, I do need a break.
Go eat a cookie, go make yourself a glass of milk. Like, no, like honestly, like
Yeah.
there's so much truth to like how cruel we can be to ourselves versus like how we would talk to anyone else. And you would never say those things to like your friends, but you will give yourself a lot of crap over just the dumbest stuff. Okay, so I was looking at the outline here, and under the tips, bonus points for props, I brought some props. Ooh. So let me show one example for you guys here. Come here.
What if it was just the Chihuahua and he's like,
so like on this Thule bag, this was like one of the very first like rework projects I did. No one knows about this. This is my little secret, but this little stretched out cow pin is not here for fun. It's here because it's covering where my heat gun decided to just obliterate this material as I was putting on the heat shrink on the zipper pull. And this was the very last thing I did for this bag. Like, and I had already done all the other ones, so I didn't even think twice that this material might heat differently. And I just got it a little too close and it like burned all up in here. I wanted to cry. I literally wanted to cry. I spent like, I forget how long, a couple weeks working on this one. And I wanted to like throw it across the room. I'm just like, how could I be so stupid? How could I burn it with a heat gun? But like, it is okay. You know, if those mistakes, if you let them get to you, then you'll never make anything. Every project will be abandoned. So that's my TED talk about mental health and making.
Thing.
I've been listening to a lot of Armchair Anonymous, Dak Shepard. It was fun taking a bunch of flights yesterday, so I listened to like 3 of those, and I feel like we could almost do that. Actually, might make a great episode 100. We should do like Maker Anonymous stories of people like messing up the last thing on their bag.
Yes.
Just like all the stories. I have probably 5 of my own. Not that I would share all of them they would not be worth it. People definitely have better ones, but still, that would be awesome. Just like a series of stories that people send in of like the worst thing. Like I was about to finish and I was poking my corner out and I just stabbed through the fabric or something.
Yes, exactly. Or I forgot to
be a lot.
I forgot to put
It
the
reminds
zippers on, like
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Oh yes, the sliders.
Or I
Yeah.
sewed through the zipper and now it doesn't work anymore. Yeah. It reminds me a lot. I mean, this isn't making related per se, but what are you doing? Praising the Lord?
It's,
You're.
I'm trying to get the focus back.
Praise them. Yeah. Let's just take a minute. Thank
Let's
you.
just,
Yeah.
we are turning this weirdly theological at this point. Anyways, not exactly related to making, but the same feeling is like I am known. My wife gets so I don't do it anymore. I've stopped, but she for years has gotten so angry at me because I'll get new clothes, and I don't know why I do this. Used to do this. I've stopped now. Is I get it. It's like I'm really like I'm so excited about this new jacket. I take the tag, and I just rip it off every time. And I'm telling you, 50% of the time that I have done that, I have ruined the clothing item and put a hole
Yeah,
in it.
it just rips through it. Yeah.
I've done that so many times, but it's the same kind of feeling. It's like looking for the right like shirt, or I got this really nice like new merino blend shirt. It's like an $80 shirt, and I'm like, all right, got to try it on. You know what I should do before I try it on, so that way I can't return it and I tear it. I'm gonna rip the tag off as hard as I can with my teeth. And I've just done that, but I stopped doing it now. But anyways, very relatable feeling of like, except for the differences, like with making, I think you can get creative and put a pin to cover it, or you can sew on a cool patch, or there are many ways that you can kind of maybe even give it more character than it had before. Whereas for me with the shirts, I kind of just probably said some really bad things and then I threw it away. Or actually, no, I recycled it. I didn't.
Yeah,
Definitely didn't throw it away because
Oh my gosh.
I turned it into compost or something. I don't know.
Yeah, we got to look into that. I think that'd be a good episode. Good episode 100. I forgot where we were on the outline, but yeah,
We kind of jumped around. Anyway.
definitely any other tips for people that are looking to upgrade their DIY skills?
I would say like, I mean, there's so many variables, right? It's like,
Sure.
how much time do you want to spend on it? Like, where does that time go? How much money do you want to spend on it? I'd say like if you have a machine, like first things first, just learn the limits of that machine, because that will then dictate really what type of projects you're able to do, and where you can try to get creative, but also just I think it'll help filter projects that you take on too, because then you'll have a better understanding of like where ones could just completely fail, and those aren't exactly the ones that are that fun to take on. I might be biased in this, but taking things apart, I think, is a great way to start. I think modding gear is a lot of fun. I don't think, we are told enough that we can do that. Like the stuff that is designed for the masses. It's not designed for the individuals. So if you get something and you want to make a change to it, I think that's a great place to start. And it's very attainable. It doesn't have to be a fresh new design that the world has never seen. Like there's so much R&D that goes into that instead, like, just take what you have and find little ways that you can improve it, and then you're going to have that much more connection to the item, and you're also going to want to keep it around, because now you have like this weird attachment to it. You're like, this is my child now. Like, I'm not just going to throw this away. I'm going to try to keep it alive and keep fixing it when things go wrong. So I think that's probably, I don't know how to wrap that up. That's what I would do. That's my tip. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I've said it before on the podcast, but that's also my recommendation for people. Outside of purchasing our very well-crafted kits.
Oh,
and
yes,
great instructions.
yes. Start at ripstopbytheroll.com. Make sure. Yeah.
But no, for real, like definitely taking things apart and learning how they go together. If you have something that you're willing to take apart. I mean, don't take your favorite bag ever and just seam rip it and then not be able to get it back together. But it's how I learned, and I'm still learning how things go together. And yeah, just making that one small change where you really feel like this pack's hip belt needs to be a thicker mesh, or it needs to be a little bit longer to fit your anatomy. You can make that change, and it might make it more functional, more aesthetically pleasing, or it might just be a great like learning experience for you. But yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, and I do understand that it comes from a place of a bit of privilege, right? To be able to like afford the item, but then also afford to take the item apart. So I think like if it's within your means, if there's also like a secondhand community that you can get like a lot of used gear off of, or whether it's from your thrift store, wherever, that those are also like good places to start. Like you can go and get a totally decrepit bag for cheap, but then if that's the bag that you want to take apart and make a pattern piece from, then at least like you're really giving it like another life. So
Yeah, I think it's great to do that with apparel as well. If you can find
mhm.
something that you can thrift, or that's kind of maybe met the end of its life, or I don't, that was kind of weird to personify clothing in that way, but it's at the end of the journey of being worn. Um, it's great to pattern off of that. I mean, you can basically you can take a t-shirt and turn that into a whole new piece of clothing, a jacket or whatever, just by flipping it inside out and seam ripping it. Uh, Especially because I think apparel is, without software and stuff, is very difficult to pattern compared to like a bag
Yeah.
that might have 5 sides.
Hmm.
And so yeah.
Two random questions came to mind, and they're in no particular order or
Ooh.
fall in line with other questions. So sorry, dear listener. But first question is, what sort of companies do you look for? If there's somebody out there that's hearing this and is interested in your style, what sort of companies do you look for your soft good stuff, or is there any parameter to that really?
Paying ones.
Exactly. Ones that value the creative process. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets pretty bleak, man, because I have a lot of other friends who work in soft goods, and some of the meetings can be a little soul crushing, where it's like, okay, time to design some future landfill, where you're literally just designing because you have to crank something out because they're, no matter what, 100,000 units of this particular bag has to be refreshed, and who knows if people are going to buy it, and we know where it's going to end up. Like, it's I don't know, I feel like that part of it gets really, really sad. So I think the brands that I lean towards are ones that with like a huge focus on sustainability, with that are very transparent about their manufacturing process, making sure that things are ethically made, that everyone's paid a living wage, just what I feel like are kind of the bare minimums for like
Right.
being a good human. But you would be very surprised that a lot of brands still don't follow that. And so I think if that's something that we all want to see, then that's something that we have to support, and that's the only way that we're going to be able to see the change come. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Um, so if you're willing to share, what project is up next? Like, do you have kind of one up your sleeve that you've been workshopping for a while, or is there a particular kind of, do you know what the new thing you want to work on is in a project, but you don't have a project to apply it to? Like, what's in the Marc sphere?
oh, dude, the Marc sphere. There's all kinds of stuff going around in the Marc sphere. And on small scale, a lot of home projects. Like Rochelle and I just moved into the spot, and we are finding ways to hack the space. But we also, if we've been like trimming down, it was so sweet, but she has like this collection of linens that like she was just sitting and staring at, and was like, I cannot part way with these linens. I know they do not fit our new bed, but like I collected these linens, and so we are finding new ways to repurpose the linen. So like one I upholstered into like a small bench for our kitchen nook.
Cool.
And then we're going to cut up and do like quilts for the bed. So that'll be another project. We have like a chair we're going to reupholster, just because it's kind of beat up. I do have one project that I just finished yesterday that I could share with you guys that I'm very excited about.
Yes.
But
Let's go.
I don't know if you can see it behind me. There's like a little mood board of like
Yeah.
Nike did a shoe collaboration with Ben and Jerry's. It's called the Chunky Dunky. Came out I think a couple of years ago, and they retail they retail for a price. Now they sell secondary for stupid money, like $3,000 for like this
Oh my gosh.
pair of
They
shoes.
probably retailed for 120.
Yeah, like
StockX, they are the same as the bar tacking machine times 2.
Yeah, it's nuts. And when we were in Thailand, there's this mall. It's called MBK, and it's just like levels of dupe stuff. And sure enough, there was. We found like this cool shoe store that just had like they had Air Maxes, they had like all kinds of Nike SBs, like they had everything, and they had a pair of Chunky Dunkies for like $40. And I was like, I'm getting these. Like
Awesome.
I'm going to wear the hell out of these. I'm going to skate these. And it was like just another example of like how looking at something can bring joy, can like spark joy, can change the mood. And so I kind of started workshopping the ideas like, okay, what if I took like their iconic sort of, it started with skateboarding, but now they kind of do it. They rebranded it for all sport, but their backpack, and make it into what the Chunky Dunky would be. So let me see here. Let me grab it for you guys.
That's awesome.
Disconnect real
Dude,
quick.
I'm so excited.
Okay. So here it is.
Bruh.
Yeah,
That is amazing.
This was nuts, man. This took a month. uh, and I'm realizing now that when I take on projects, I need to take on ones that I could do in like a week. But this was a lot of fun. So this was a blast to put together.
Oh my gosh, there's. I don't even know where to start. Okay, so let's go. What are the clouds? The clouds are the first thing that grabbed me. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, there's like 3D texture on a backpack is really cool.
Yeah. So okay, so the clouds. So I mean, the whole body of the bag is 1000D Cordura. I wanted to like bring it back to like the JanSport like super break, just like I rarely make bags out of this material, but when I do, it's fun to kind of remember like how it feels and how it sews. And it at least gave me like some opportunity for like this applique where you can have a raw edge and it's fine. You could just kind of hit it with a lighter and it'll hold up. So I did these clouds that are also removable.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
So if you want to put them on any part of the bag and start having like your little sky line, you can.
Oh my god.
I know I really committed to the bit here. It's a little ridiculous, but it was so fun.
No, that's exactly what it is. It's so fun. It's just like playful and youthful and just like
But
goofy.
it's also aesthetically pleasing. I think that's the other thing that like to just go back to like kind of how I view your style. It's like, yes, there is a whimsy to it, but there's also like an artistic attention to detail where like obviously you're going off of the iconic like color scheme and stuff from the shoe, but to be able to put things in places and know that they go together is a skill that like I also don't have. I don't have that not like that.
I did not always have it either. It's been practiced, and it also helps that Rochelle is very creative. So I'll usually like bounce some ideas off her. I'll show her some color ups, and I'll be like, kind of gauge which one she gets excited about. And when I told her I was thinking about doing these little clouds, that was like, I think what she got most excited about. She's like, wait, really? Like that'd be super cute. So this pocket just feels like Windows XP to me with like the hill and the clouds. And
For listeners, I forgot that. So that you can picture this backpack, imagine like the top, like over the top zipper, not over the top as in like extra, but like over the top as in like it goes over the top of the bag. So like kind of basic pack design, if you will, like a traditional pack, but the colorway is all like the Ben and Jerry's, like light blue, sky, clouds, the green on the bottom, and then it looks like Molly more or less with like cow print on it, and then it has like skateboard straps, so you can just strap your board to the outside of the bag there. And then like removable clouds that you can kind of place. So I take it like the cow webbing, like all the black pieces, those are all Velcro?
Yeah, they're all Velcro. They're all hand cut. It took me a minute to like decide on this. Like originally I was thinking like I saw online I could get like cow print webbing, but then the print always looked very repeated. So I had a bunch of white webbing left over from the unicorn build. So I was like, okay, I want to use that. I don't know how I'm going to get the cows on it yet. Maybe I could like eyedropper some RIT or something and get some splatters, but that felt like it would be a little hard to control the result.
Sure.
So eventually kind of landed on like, okay, this is going to take freaking forever, but yeah, I'm going to hand cut these little shapes, sew each one on. There's like 11 different rows of webbing that each have about 10 little cow print things on it. So
gosh.
yeah, that was probably the most time consuming part. And then I hadn't originally like catted having white and black around the gusset, but it was more happenstance just because I ran out of this blue Cordura. This was like really hard to find. I was only able to get this amount from a friend in a maker group on Facebook, TPP makers. And I was like, all right, well, if that's it, then got to figure out like how else I'm going to work this. And I think it worked out fine. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that is awesome. And you don't even have like a laser cutter or anything. You just got all these pieces out by hand.
Oh, I was just thinking that. I was thinking about the skill, the artistic skill. Maybe I'm overstating this. I'm not trying to. I almost said something I'm not allowed to say on this.
I want to know. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm not trying to glaze, but I don't think you're supposed to say glaze. I don't. Jameson probably doesn't know that. Anyway.
Word. Yeah.
It's like I was thinking about if I had to like draw out the shapes and cut them out, they would all look so stupid. There's no way they would look like an actual cow print like that. I would have mine would look like the damn McDonald's 3 like chicken nugget shapes, like the boot and the whatever. That's like all I could do. So it's just so impressive to be able to cut those out and they actually look like what they're supposed to look like. And to have to do 11 rows of them or whatever is wild. But that is so awesome. I will give you $45 and half a Bitcoin. Okay. Actually, half a Bitcoin's a lot.
Yeah, you have any NFTs? What do you got? Yeah,
I have the chunky Dunky NFT. I'll trade you.
I think one thing I'm taking away from talking to you and looking at your projects today is just how much more you can do when you're committed to a project fully. I don't mean to take away the skill that you have, which not everyone has the capability to make what you make, but how much more we could bring to our projects if we are just like willing to see it out over a period of time. I don't think I'm speaking just for me, but like I very much think about a project and I put a lot of myself into it and I choose very intentionally. But once it gets to the making piece, I'm like, no, I often say I don't want to do that thing, whatever that is. Like, oh, that'll take too much time. And occasionally I'm notorious for like having a trip coming up. Like I need the right fanny pack for the trip, so I'm going to make it by then. So like, or like I need a packing cube, so I'm going to finish it. And so that sometimes there's like a time limit, but I don't know. You're really encouraging me to think about projects and not be afraid of the time that it takes to put into them, but like put a lot of design effort into the project and just sort of allow it to happen over a few weeks. Like the number of projects that I've worked on for more than a couple days is like singular. Like I like to start and finish it in the same day, which is like you were speaking to me earlier. So I don't know. It's really inspiring me to like really think about something I could pour like up considered time into for a while.
Yeah, it's something that I tease Jameson about, but also genuinely it makes me stressed. Like I know it's not my thing to be stressed about, but I walk into like our maker space and he's in there and he's like, I'm like, what are you making? He's like, you don't want to know. And I'm like, just tell me. I'm making a new backpack for my plane ride tomorrow. And I'm just like, what? So he will spend 7 or 8 hours straight, like staying after work, coming in, like let's say his flight's at 3 p.m. tomorrow. He's going to come in and finish it at like 1 and then go straight to the airport with a new backpack. And they always turn out great. Like that level of focus is wild, but also the stress that you add. There's not like that freedom of like, oh, I can just put this down or work on this in batches. It's like, if I don't have this done, I won't have my laptop won't be able to go with me on the plane. I'll have to cancel my flight. And I won't get to see my I almost said granddaughter's birth. I don't know why you would be a grandfather in my head.
I'm not. Yeah. No, that's I'm taking a lot away from this already.
Yeah.
So we have kind of a flagship question, Mark, that we always put at the end of an episode. So I'm curious to hear your take. The question is, what fabric is missing on the market?
I think we have enough. Like, I
Fair.
think, I think there's so many options. I I think what I'm missing and what I would like to see more of in like the maker space is people maybe branching out to other stuff than like it's got to be Cordura. I mean, even Cordura as a whole has like hundreds of different fabrics in their library. It's just like as makers, we're kind of exposed to like a few. And it's same with like the laminates. It's same with like the sailcloth, which I think are great and are great for a reason. There's a reason why they're popular. But I think like if we're calling the shots and we're making the things, then I think there's an opportunity to explore other materials and just see like how they work and whether or not they work. Like I love seeing people remake stuff. I know a trend lately has been like out of the postal service envelopes and out of
IKEA bags.
Yep, IKEA bag, Trader Joe's bags, just like reworking stuff in that way, I think is really, really inspiring because you don't really know exactly how it's going to hold up. None of that stuff has been tested for, I don't know, long-term use. So I think more stuff like that, more hodgepodge, mixing some stuff up and see if it works type of deal.
That reminds me of something. I've had too many thoughts. I don't know what's going on with me.
First episode back in a while.
Like Ritalin or something.
I got too many thoughts. Yeah.
Do you guys remember, and this could just be me, but that reminded me of, there was this trend. I have an older sister. She's like 5.
Same.
She's some amount older than me that I'm not sure of, and now I'm embarrassed. I don't know how old she is. I think she's like 30,
She's the same age as my sister.
32 or something.
Yeah.
She had.
I know your family better than you do.
Capri Sun purses.
Oh yeah.
The people used to make purses out of empty Capri Sun
yes.
packaging.
Yes.
And they were really popular. Like every person in middle school that was in school in 2008 or whatever.
Even I knew about those, and I was homeschooled, so like that says everything.
That and the duct tape wallet, like
duct tape,
had a big moment. Yeah,
we need to bring Capri Sun purses back.
Yeah,
duct tape backpack. Let's go. Yeah,
I feel like they are coming back with the IKEA bag and the Trader Joe's. Like some of these things, I feel like they're the latest edition of the Capri Sun purse walk, so that the IKEA bag could run.
I think we need to like up the ante with another packaging. Like I want to see a Gushers backpack or like Sun Chips. You know how loud that would be?
Oh my gosh!
Just Sun Chips duffel bag, and you're getting it at like it's like a late flight, and you're trying to put your duffel bag in the overhead bin. It's like,
and it always has the smell too. It's like,
oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, I do. Man, I feel excited. I feel like I need to go to a thrift shop and rip something apart and make it into crazy colors now.
You should pay for it first. Well, you made that sound like you're just going to walk in and be like, excuse me, sir, I will be over here with a seam ripper and a pair of scissors. Is it a pair of scissors or a scissors? How do you...
I don't know.
Is a pair of scissors 2 things of scissors?
Yeah,
that's another podcast.
So it's a single scissor. Is one side of the apparatus that cuts when it comes together on the hinge.
I always thought the scissor was the action of like the 2 blades coming together.
So, oh my gosh, did we just break the universe? We just destroyed the MYOG community.
This is going to be like a heated debate topic.
We need to look up the etymology.
It's going to divide us. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone chime in below or above or wherever comments live on the medium you're watching or listening to this on. Let us know what the scissor is.
There will be one person that absolutely knows, and they're going to be upset.
I hope they do. That would be awesome, honestly. Last question, Mark, because I wrote it down and I forgot to ask it until now because I forgot to look at the outline. Most important question: multicam black or multicam alpine?
I laughed out loud when I read through the questions, and that was like at the end. I was like, that is so specific, but like
I know you're an avid user of both. I've seen it.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, at this point now, I feel like Alpine, right? Because then you could dye it. Like you can get a little creative. I've seen I've seen some guys at the like the carryology meetups that like they'll send it to, I don't know who they send it to, someone in the group, and they'll take like the completely done multicam wipe, like let's say like Cerberus bag, and then they just dunk that thing and then it'll be purple. And I'm like, that's like so dope. So I think that gives you some flexibility. I haven't tried dyeing it. But I think that's where I would kind of play around with it. With the black, you're kind of limited. I don't know. It's tough.
I'm off tomorrow. I might be dyeing some multicam Alpine.
Don't do it at my house, dude.
That is a great idea.
That's the messiest thing ever.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get dirty with it. I think that's such a great, because I've always thought multicam black. I just really think like black is such a clean aesthetic. That the multicam just adds something kind of interesting to like an otherwise dark color. But that is such a great point. Now I don't have to wait to print anything down at the printing station. I can just print it at my own house. Mark, this podcast has been dangerous for me.
Ooh, I'm excited for this rabbit hole you're going to go down.
I'm starting to regret this.
All right.
First off, I just, not that it was asked to me since I'm not the star of this show, Mark is, I will say I hate multicam in pretty much every form. So
yes, that's what I want to hear. Yeah,
I just
dated,
don't like
man.
camo.
Yeah.
I really don't. There are some that I like okay. The camos that I like the most are ones that I pretty much illegally took and then changed all the colors myself and then printed them also illegally. I mean, I didn't sell it to anyone.
Yeah,
but
we won't tell anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, no one will know.
Like I've taken Hex Cam is one of the licensed camos that we sell. And yeah, I have a mouse pad on my desk in my office that is like Charlotte Hornets, like teal and purple inspired Hex Cam that doesn't exist because I just made it. And then I was like, maybe I should ask them if like they want me to like sell this to them. And I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. I literally stole it and then made it. And I'm doing it on company time. So literally the company owns the pattern and I won't get paid. So that's why there's just only a mouse pad.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
But yeah, I'm trying to learn to like camo. This has inspired me to start looking at things maybe in a different perspective, and maybe camo fits in with some crazy color that I haven't thought of. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to storyboard out some camos, unless it's ATAX. That one's awful.
I don't think we can say that.
Yeah, we can. It's awful for me. Lots of people
That's
love
awful
ATAX.
for you. Yeah.
There's no variant of ATAX that I like.
That's okay.
Well, so
Is there one you like?
No.
The homework assignment has been assigned. Then I expect both you guys in a week circle back. I want to see dyed camo. I want to see camo explored. You know, I will do
this.
Yeah.
I promise I will do it.
I'm just picking the shade right now. It's the only thing it's in my head.
Yeah, I see the
Which
wheels
shade?
turning.
Buy the RIT dye.
That's doable, I think. I don't know what that is yet. I have to look that up too. We'll get
It's just the most common like synthetic dye for synthetic materials.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I'm going to shut this thing down before we get
Shut it
disorderly.
down. Yeah.
But Mark, thanks again for joining us. It's been really fun to chat with you. Yeah, just chat more. I'm really excited to see about the projects you come up with next and see what you got going on.
Yeah, thank you
guys,
so much.
Thank you.
This has been really fun. I haven't been on a podcast in quite a while, and I was a little bit apprehensive, and this has just been great. So hopefully we get to talk more. I'd love to check out some more of the stuff that you're working on, and if you ever need anything like, some scrap fabrics or something like that, you can hit us up, and I'll help you out for sure.
Scrap fabs.
Scrap fabs.
You don't have to abbreviate that. I think it's just probably easy to say it just like as the full name, but maybe I'm old fashioned. I don't know.
No, guys, thank you. Like, this has been a blast. It's been great meeting you guys and chatting bag and chatting design, so I would love to talk to you guys more. It doesn't have to be in this podcast, just whenever, we can.
Sure, absolutely.
No, we'll record every conversation we have. Just post them all. The people want it. Thanks, Mark.